Good day, everyone. You're welcome to another episode of Sports Count. My name is Daniel. Right here with me is Tomiwa, Chelsea fan. Chelsea, even though they are not they are not qualified for the Champions League, they are just running out. By next season, they will just be running around the Premier League, play just 40 games in a week, which is they are a failed club. Yeah.
Right now, I know you have all the right to talk back at Chelsea, but let me remind you too that for how many seasons now you've just been parading the EPL alone. It was just this season that you qualify for European League. Trust me, Chelsea now has one of the best coach in the world. And our management, we are getting back on our feet, and I'm very sure that next season is gonna be different. The kind of Chelsea you knew last season is not gonna be the one you're gonna see. So I'm waiting for the next season to come, so I can show you what we are made of.
Okay, no problem. So let's get into the topic of today. Right now, we know what's going on. The greatest tournament in the world, the World Cup, is going on right now. So we'll start with previewing the matches from the first match, the opening match, Mexico and South Africa. Then move on to late. We'll just move on to the other matches. So we'll start with previewing the matches from the World Cup. So first of all,
I already predicted that Mexico was going to win the match, because if you watch the match, you realize that they dominated all through the game. Both first half and second half, they dominated everything. And then Mexico also has the advantage that invariably all African countries were in support of Mexico. And then I saw a post where it was written that the coach was applauding all African countries for supporting them, that he has never experienced that kind of thing in his career. And I also saw different videos about people, Nigerians and other African people, renaming themselves to a Mexican name just to prove their loyalty to Mexico. So this actually boils down to why we are Africans and why we ought to be one. Normally the Africans were supposed to support South Africa, but because of the ongoing whatever that is happening in South Africa right now, everybody decided to follow Mexico. So it was really a very, very tough game, and South Africa played what they could, but they just couldn't overpower Mexico. That was you see the goal from Raul Jimenez. That was very, very fantastic, and a very sharp striker that their defender is not tough enough to handle Raul Jimenez. I'm looking forward to better games from Mexico this World Cup.
Yeah, it was a great one. In fact, the World Cup, watching that match, I was actually annoyed that Nigeria did not qualify. If it was Nigeria that played, that happened. But South Africa,
you mean we would have better?
Yeah, would have played better. South Africa did not play. When watching the match, they were not half as good as Mexico. Mexico went full on playing up, so they were not as good as that. So, they lost and they move on. They have the next game. I think South Africa. Their next game is against Czech Republic, and we'll see what they're going to
price. Looking at in our first session, I told you about some countries you should look out for, such that they are going to shock the world, and South Korea happens to be part of those teams. They have very, very, very fast players. If you want to go on attacking with them, they can defend. They can match up with your energy. They are very, very fast. And when Czech scored them the first goal, I know everyone would think that was gonna be Hull, but then that's something about the Korean team. They are very, 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 resilient when it comes to, taking back what they think they can handle. So it was a shock because I expected the Czech Republic to do more. But then we saw that South Korea actually overpowered them. So with the likes of Lee Son, Lee Kange, Min Jae, and the rest of the team, those guys are pretty fast. So I think what they did was they utilized and leveraged on the advantage of the speed, and then to overcome the Czech Republic. And I'm also rooting for South Korea that I think they will be one of those teams that will emerge out of their group stage.
Yeah, I believe so too. Like the match, Czech Republic are not as good as South Korea. Really played very, very well. They outplayed Czech Republic. They played both in shots and they start everything. Yeah. And also, you mentioned Heung-min Son. I believe this would be his last World Cup because he was not really. He was good, but he was just an average player in the match. For my own thoughts, so I don't know.
Well, I wouldn't say it's gonna be his last World Cup. In the game, we didn't really see Son in the game like that, because of the position he played. He didn't play his usual position. He played as a top striker. He played 9.
Yeah.
The normal Son is a winger, so he's not playing his normal position where we always known him to to play. So that actually caused that happening. And you realize the game with Brazil and Morocco, that was a very powerful game where we see Sabari playing as top 9. I was expecting Sabari to play at the left wing, but he ended up playing as a striker, and then we didn't really see much of him until he scored a goal. So basically, players that can actually play more than a role, that they are being used in a role that they are not always used to. Sometimes it can actually be like that, where you just see them showing up once in a while and not being consistent in the game. So I want to believe that was the case for Son. Son is still a very agile footballer. He's physically strong. He has the speed. He has the pace, and I think we should just the World Cup has not ended. So let's still watch out for more. You remember in the game, the last friendly England had, Kane was not really in the game until he scored. He only played 45 minutes, though. But within that 45 minutes, he was not really in the game until he scored that heading. So it's always like that sometimes. But I believe that there is still more. That we will see at that angle with Lee Son.
Yeah, very, very true. Yeah, well, this is just the first games. So they have their next game is against Mexico, which will be a tough one. Well, let's see how it goes. Yeah,
very tough one. both of them have the speed advantage.
Yeah.
They both have the speed advantage, but Mexico has the defense advantage ahead of South Korea. However, South Korea is one team that plays on attacking football. They might actually stress out Mexican defenders with their attacking football, but you never can tell. So let's watch out. But like never before, I'm still rooting for South Korea to top up their group stage.
Okay.